Hey everybody, I am Danny Otto. Now, before we get into the show, just want to issue a quick spoiler warning. We are going to be talking about everything that happened in the first episode of the Loki Disney Plus series. Yes, it's finally here. So if you haven't watched that yet, go check that out, come back, and enjoy the show with us. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
Welcome into That Recap Show. Joining with me to break down all the action from episode 1 of Loki's Disney Plus series, it's producer Paul.
What is going on, population? We have the best first episode of a Marvel Disney Plus series yet. Let's dive into Loki.
Yes, let's get right into it. So what I really like about this series in general, but this episode also, is that, we pick up right with the first scene being Endgame. We know exactly instantly where this series is starting from. We know the time it's going to be in. Interesting word that I said time. Anyway, but I just really like that. I like having that instant, no recap necessary, but just starting with that scene. Now, we immediately see Loki and exactly where he teleported. He teleports into a desert, and we get Loki acting like Loki, just trying to immediately order around the people that are in the desert by him. And then instantly we see the TVA, the Time Variant Authority, come in and apprehend him immediately and reset the timeline, meaning that timeline has already been fixed. But then we get to see this interior of the TVA. That's what we're going to be using for short, Time Variant Authority. We get to see everything. We get to see the bureaucratic process. We get to see all of the insides, the line waiting, everything. So if you've been waiting for a Marvel series with bureaucracy, this is for you. I think it's really reminiscent of, like, I got some Beetlejuice vibes, and I got some early episodes of Futurama vibes, like when Fry wakes up in the future and it's just like robots and stuff. One of my favorite scenes is where Loki is about to step through what looks like a metal detector, and the guy asks, "To your best knowledge, do you know if you're a robot or if you're a real person with a soul?" And he goes, "Are there a lot of people that don't know if they're a robot or not?" That's like one of my
solid question.
Yeah, yeah. But all of these like little things I thought were perfect. They added into the ambiance of this entire I guess agency, basically, that has been existing for millennia, since time existed, basically, and it has a really funny take. I really like all of that and getting introduced to all of that, and then we see Loki in line, and then we get some exposition. But I think it's a very perfect way of exposition that we got. We got it in a very a little goofy, cartoony. You were saying earlier when we were talking about this that it reminded you of a Jurassic Park vibe.
The little Jurassic Park cartoon.
Yeah,
it felt very funny and fitting, and it did a good job, I think, of explaining to the audience the purpose of the TVA. Just in that sometimes within this main timeline, as we kind of saw within Endgame, people branch out and at risks creating all these different realities. And they are here to make sure that doesn't happen. They want to keep this one timeline straight. And if they find a variant has gone off, they are going to pluck them. They're going to put them back in their stream and let things play out as they should. Which leads us into Owen Wilson, who is awesome in the episode. We meet him as he is investigating the murder of some of the Minutemen who work for the TVA. That's, I guess, their cool little nickname. But there's clearly a variant who we see this little girl point to a devil within this church setting on these stained glass windows, and saying that is who is causing all this mischief, I guess you could say. And Owen Wilson gets handed the file saying, oh, yeah, we've apprehended Loki from the main timeline. And immediately he jets off. And right as Loki is going through court, Owen Wilson shows up and is like, hey, I could use this guy. So they take him down, and much in the same way that we are doing a recap show, Owen Wilson and Loki do a little recap show of Loki's. He basically gets to watch the rest of his story as we have seen it thus far in the MCU. Now, what's interesting about this particular sequence where Owen Wilson is questioning Loki and basically trying to figure out, does Loki really understand like why he does the things that he does, is we get to see Loki process himself going through the arc. He hasn't lived these experiences, but he watches himself into the future as he indirectly causes the death of his mother, how he comes together with Thor, basically everything leading up to the first scene in Infinity War. And it's really interesting to see his reaction to it. He tries to play a little, catch and run. He tries to do a little jailbreak very, very quickly, and finds out that that's not so much going to work.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
He winds up right back where he started, and that's when Owen Wilson kind of drops a bomb on him.
Yeah, well, before we even get into that bomb, I just wanted to say, because we were talking about this, one thing that really stuck out to me in that whole is just that shot where he's watching himself die in Infinity War, die by the hands of Thanos, who basically this version was kind of just working for, and dying in a way of like he's trying to murder Thanos to kind of help everyone type of thing. And you can just see the change, and he's been putting up such just like an argument throughout the series up until now, and just that instant change, and he starts immediately like honestly kind of pouring his heart out, I guess, to Owen Wilson's character.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this guy, you see him use the term glorious purpose, which we hear in the first Avengers movie a lot. And in that moment, we do see him just come to that realization that he's not burdened with this glorious purpose to rule. He's going to die.
So I don't want to give away what that last little thing was, only because I think it would be perfect if we touch on that in our big takeaways. So the first one is, we finally got it. Greatest mystery ever has officially been solved. It was Loki all along. DB Cooper's identity has finally been solved. It was Loki on a bet that he lost to Thor. I mean, that being we've seen that in the trailers leading up to the start of this series, but that being a throwaway scene that Loki and Owen Wilson's character are just watching was perfect. I think that was the perfect way to do that. I think it was hilarious. It puts him in real life, and it just, I don't know. I think it was perfectly done. What do you think? What was something big that stood out for you?
Well, what was interesting to me was as he is running around the TVA trying to make his escape, he has the Tesseract. He gets that back. This thing that we think is going to transport him wherever he wants to go. They may be hot on his tail, but as he's trying to get the Tesseract back, he finds Infinity Stones in the TVA, and they're paperweights. Like nobody is worried about like, oh yeah, these super powerful things. They have no effect. We're so used to seeing these things be all powerful within the Marvel series that like literally culminated the entire first 11-year arc of these movies, like 19 movies, all culminating based on these stones. And they have no effect now in this series, which I thought was a very interesting bit of information to go off of.
Well, that whole like takeaway scene where like he opens it up and he sees all the Infinity Stones, that was hilarious and perfectly played and awesome. But the last one, the reason we saved it, boom, big reveal. They're hunting another Loki variant.
Boom! Big reveal. I'm a pickle. I'm Pickle Rick!
So that's Loki's purpose. That's why Owen Wilson stopped him being reset. That's why Owen Wilson is asking all of these questions to him to kind of find him out as his real character and his real motivation for doing things. They are tracking another Loki variant. Which
was clever. In the court scene where Owen Wilson first interacts with Loki, the judge asks how much power does this person have, or what damage can Loki do? And Owen Wilson is like, well, I know. And it totally relates back, and you're like, oh, because he has been tracking down a variant of Loki. And he needs to use this version of Loki to potentially save the entire timeline, which could be the one thing that Loki could use to his benefit throughout the series? We don't know, because they dropped the bomb and then they cut to black, which I think was an excellent ending point for that first episode, because we don't really know where to go from here with the series. We know that they are after this variant of Loki who we don't see his face, which I'm sure is going to send a lot of theories all over the place. But it makes sense, though, with the Loki title card that we see at the beginning of the series that has all those little different variations of the lettering. We may not only see just these two variations of Loki. We might get to see a whole lot of variations of Loki throughout the series, which could be really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I mean, you said it perfectly. The ending and the way it ended, it leads right into my prediction. I think that we're going to find out that the one person or creature or whatever that Owen Wilson is tracking is just setting things up so it looks like it's a Loki variant. I think it was very important that we did not get to see that character's face, because if we did see it and it really was Loki, even if it was like a differently dressed Loki or a Loki that like looked younger or older or whatever, that would have given a huge reveal and a huge like stake, meaning that this is going to be self-contained. I think it's very purposely played that we did not see the face. So I think it's going to be someone else, a different villain, a bigger villain that is going to potentially lead this series into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because as we saw during the updates of the actual episodes, the instruments that they have to read, we're getting to a critical point where we could start seeing multiverse activity from where it just gets out of control. And that's what whoever this is that they're tracking is trying to cause, basically.
It's very interesting that you bring up Multiverse of Madness, because again, this entire series, what they're setting up here is that it's time variants that cause these multiverses to branch out. So it would make a lot of sense that this series is going to directly lead into Multiverse of Madness, which we also know ties to WandaVision. Now, the other character in WandaVision that everybody theorized would be revealed as the big bad, Mephisto. In that first scene where Owen Wilson is talking to that little girl about what had gone on in the church and killed all of the Minutemen, she points to that stained glass window, which we see has a red face, but it also has kind of the Loki horns. So it really could be one or the other. It could be somebody pretending to be Loki. That is entirely possible. At this point, I'm pretty convinced that Owen Wilson has been made such a likable character that I don't think there's going to be any surprise reveal of him being a villain. Obviously, Loki is always the wild card within the Marvel Universe. We don't know exactly how he's going to react, but we do see by that episode end that he has realized he does not have this glorious purpose. He is on his way to die. He's seen himself live out this sort of redemption arc. Now he has to decide, what do I do from here? So I don't really know where that character is going, but like I said right in the intro, this was the best first episode of a Marvel Disney Plus series so far.
I could not agree more. After that first episode, I can't wait to see where this series goes. Let us know in the comments, what did you like about the first episode? What are your predictions about the next episode and about the season overall? Do you think it is a Loki variant, or do you think it's another bigger character that could lead into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, turn on notifications to hear about all of our video releases. Bye, everybody!
Later.